Let's answer this question right now. Why can't I focus when everyone else can? It's not because you're lazy. It's because you are a super sensor. To your brain, that clicking pen isn't just noise, it's a physical blow. While others tune out the chaos, you feel every sound wave hitting you like a hammer. You aren't losing focus. You are surviving an assault. Today, we stop blaming your willpower. We're going to decode your hardware to understand why you suffer so much. We need to map out the sensory overload cascade. It happens in 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, the missing filter. Stage 2, the deep process. And Stage 3, the system crash. Let's start with Stage 1, the missing filter or low latent inhibition. Most brains have a built-in bouncer. According to research by Dr. Shelley Carson at Harvard University, this bouncer blocks 90% of the world's noise. The printer, the chewing, the lights, tagging it as meaningless before it ever reaches your awareness. But your brain has no bouncer. The door is wide open. Think of it like a VIP club. For most people, the security guard is strict. He stops the delivery truck noise and the distant chatter at the door, saying, "You're not on the list." But for you, your guard is on a permanent coffee break. So, every single sound, the tapping foot, the humming fridge, the person chewing gum, walks right into the VIP lounge of your mind and starts partying. You aren't choosing to invite them in, you just don't have a door to close. To be honest with you, I used to spend hours in the office restroom, not because I was lazy, but because it was the only place the world stopped screaming. It was the only place I could find silence to breathe. I used to be ashamed of that, thinking I was broken. But now I understand. It was how my body saved itself. So stay with me until the end. Because the protocol I'm about to reveal is the only way to finally stop the noise. But that's only the beginning. Because after capturing the data, your brain starts a process called depth of processing, deep processing. This is where the exhaustion sets in. Since you can't ignore that sound, your internal self is forced to decode it. When you hear footsteps walking by, you don't just hear them. You unconsciously analyze the rhythm of those steps. You feel their stress. You predict their mood for today. You link it to old memories. You're carrying the emotional weight of the entire room. This process consumes a massive amount of energy, a phenomenon neuroscientists call neural resource depletion. Imagine your brain has a RAM stick. Every office noise is a heavy browser tab running in the background. Too much data, too much processing, and the result is cognitive load. Your mental capacity is pushed beyond its limits. It leads to a RAM leak. Your neural RAM turns bright red after just a few hours. You aren't tired from work. You're tired because your brain is working 10 times harder than everyone else, just to survive the environment. Does it feel like you're running a mental marathon every single day? While simply sitting in your chair, look at Nikola Tesla. He once suffered a nervous breakdown because his hearing became so acute that the ticking of a clock felt like a gunshot. That's the price of an 8K processor suffering a RAM leak without a cooling system. When the system is overloaded, your brain's defense weakens. And that's when the second invader strikes, the phonological loop hijack. Have you ever wondered why you can work to instrumental music, but go completely blank when someone starts talking on the phone? The reason is the phonological loop. It's a dedicated conveyor belt for language. It's where your brain processes everything you read or speak internally. When human speech enters, it immediately hijacks this belt and kicks your own thoughts out. What's the problem here? Humans are hardwired to prioritize language above everything else. Speech isn't just noise. It's toxic code for your concentration, based on Professor Alan Baddeley's working memory model. When your ears catch colleagues gossiping about last night's movie, your brain automatically overwrites your priority stream to decode that story. It wipes out your own internal script and replaces it with lines of toxic code from someone else's language. You try to regain control, but you can't win against millions of years of biological instinct. Language is the #1 priority for survival. And once the phonological loop is occupied, your work comes to a complete standstill. You feel like an outsider in your own mind. Is there anything more lonely than being crowded out of your own head? Having your thoughts constantly shoved off the conveyor belt forces you to strain just to pull them back. This battle for the mind leads to the third mechanism, an endless tug-of-war right inside your cortex. The prefrontal cortex tug-of-war. The prefrontal cortex, or PFC, is the control center for executive function. It's responsible for maintaining selective attention. Scientists call this top-down focus. But office noise constantly triggers your automatic bottom-up attention system. Let me explain. Top-down is the command from your will. Focus here. Conversely, bottom-up is your survival instinct. Threat. Look there. When a strange noise erupts, instinct snatches the flashlight of your will to scan for danger. These two systems are in a brutal conflict to seize control of your mind. This is a massive, energy-draining tug-of-war. Every time you get distracted and fight to return to your work, your brain has to perform a willpower shove to repel the noise. Each shove is a heavy deadlift for the mind. If the office is noisy for 8 hours straight, you're forcing your brain to do thousands of reps every single day. The result is cognitive fatigue. By 4 p.m., you feel physically and mentally drained, maybe even on the verge of tears, even though you've just been sitting in a chair all day. That's because your internal CEO, your PFC, has completely collapsed. You no longer have the energy to inhibit external stimuli, and that's when you become irritable and lose emotional control. So, what do? When your internal CEO is exhausted, you can't use willpower to force yourself to focus anymore. You need a passive defense system to cut off the data stream at the source. We can't change your hardware, and we shouldn't want to, but we can protect it. With the stimulus control protocol, the first strategy is the physical greenhouse, building a physical greenhouse for yourself. You're an orchid, not a weed on the sidewalk. You need a specific environment to bloom. Create sensory shields to protect your sensory processing sensitivity, SPS. Noise-canceling headphones aren't a luxury, and they aren't antisocial. They're a medical device for your nervous system, from a biopsychology perspective. If possible, choose a seat with your back against a wall, because your radar is constantly scanning for movement behind you. When you eliminate that visual data, you free up at least 20% of your brain's RAM. Less input means more rest for radar. However, a physical shield isn't enough, because some data will still leak through the cracks of your focus. We need to change how we package our work to adapt to the noise. That's where the second strategy comes in, the 10-minute buffer. The 10-minute buffer and task chunking. People often ask me, Dustin, what can 10 minutes really do? My answer is simple. 10 minutes of deep focus is worth more than 3 hours of struggling in the noise. Stop counting the hours you sit at your desk. Start counting the moments you actually master your mind. Instead of trying to climb the entire mountain, break it down into nano-tasks. Tasks that take exactly 10 minutes to complete. Because 10 minutes is short enough for your AMCC, your willpower muscle, to handle. Even in a storm of noise, you can endure for 10 minutes. When you finish a nanotask, your brain releases dopamine. It's like a small refueling station in the middle of a marathon, helping you go the distance without being defeated by the noise. The third strategy is digital silence, protecting your digital bandwidth. Your radar's already running at full capacity due to office noise. Every notification ping is a shock to an already overheating system. When you need to focus, perform a digital purge. Turn off all notifications. Put your phone in a drawer. Close all junk browser tabs. Dedicate all your remaining bandwidth to a single task. Don't pour fuel on the fire with cheap digital stimuli. Give your brain the grace of single tasking. And the final strategy, the silence break reset. The 90 to 5 silence reset. Your radar's tired from the accumulation of stress over time, like dust settling on a telescope lens. Apply the 90 to 5 rule. After every 90 minutes of work, spend exactly 5 minutes in total sensory deprivation. Find an empty room, a dark corner, or simply bury your face on the desk. Plug your ears. Close your eyes. These 5 minutes aren't for scrolling through your phone. This is the act of taking out the neural trash, helping your amygdala cool down, flushing out excess cortisol. It's the necessary reset to get you ready for the next round of focus. It's time for you to stop apologizing for being sensitive. Your need for a quiet space isn't a demand. It's a prerequisite for you to give your absolute best. Why keep forcing yourself to be a stone when you were born to be a flower? Today's world is designed for people with thick filters, for the bulldozers that can work tirelessly in the middle of a construction site. But you don't need to feel guilty for not being a bulldozer. You're a telescope. A bulldozer can crush anything, but it will never see the stars. To see profound truths, you absolutely need a silent night sky. Stop trying to fix your radar. Change the environment around it. When you learn to master your hardware, the sensitivity you once considered a curse will become your greatest competitive advantage. You possess an incredibly sophisticated radar system. And sometimes, This system doesn't just react to noise. It reacts powerfully to internal emotional pressures as well. If you've ever felt stuck because you cry easily during an argument, or why anger always comes with unintended tears, then you aren't alone. It's time for us to stop apologizing for being sensitive. Your need for a quiet space isn't a demand. It's a prerequisite for you to give your absolute best. Don't force yourself to be rough to fit an outdated environment. Have the courage to protect your refinement, because that's exactly where your greatest ideas begin. This is just one layer of the supersensor architecture we've been deconstructing. To truly master this high-resolution emotional system, click on the next video, Why You Cry When You're Angry and How to Stop It. I'll decode why your tears aren't a glitch. They're a sign of sophisticated intelligence. I'll see you over there. I'm Dustin, and this is Rethink.